This is a video I've wanted to do for a while. We're basically just kind of run down a couple titles. In this case, some indie comics, some indie number ones that I've read recently, two which I've read recently, one not so recent, but I still wanted to talk about anyway. Just kind of throw it in there, just a few titles, just to mix it up, different publishers, different sorts, different genres. And basically what I wanted to do was just kind of go over a few things, mention the creators, the publisher, and just talk about the synopsis, what I thought of the book. Not a full in-depth review, so basically more on the quick shot kind of side of things. Specifically for this video, or sets of these videos, I just want to basically just kind of run down a few titles and just kind of throw them out there. Perhaps you've never heard of them, just kind of put this in your mind, maybe you want to check it out. If you had heard of them or was curious about, and maybe just give you just another opinion, just to kind of go on. So let's jump right into it. So here are my titles, and first up is Forever Maps from Scout Comics. Written and lettered by Michael Lagace. I think it's Lagace. I got the little accent there. Could be Lagace, but probably Lagace. And artwork by Todor Restall. Feel sorry if I butchered your name. Never heard it before. And I mentioned this previous video. I hate getting people's names wrong, but I have nothing to go off based on just reading it. So Todor, hopefully I pronounced it right. And the Scout production, I just mentioned because his name's there, Kurt Nimple. So I've actually mentioned, kind of posted this before with Todor's cover, the cover to this book, and on my blog, because the cover is honestly just so striking. I saw it way back when it was released, and I was like, when I saw it, it's like, oh yeah, I just like this cover. So I had to put it on my comic cover art of the week post way back when, and I was just thinking, you know what? And I was kind of looking at it. And after I posted it, I tag all the creators that I featured that week. If they're not on Twitter, then I just hashtag their name just to kind of give them credit, put their names out there at least. And he responded back. He was just kind of happy and, what he said, flattered and terrified to be mentioned with the company there. But I just had to, because it was just, I told him like, hey, it was a great cover, so I had to throw it in there. Eye-catching cover. And as such, it made me want to pick it up. So eventually I did. Ordered it from mycomicshop.com. So synopsis of Forever Maps goes as follows. It starts, it kind of centers around this fellow named John, born in the late 1700s, 1777. And he ends up coming across, I kind of go through the book a little bit, there's not really too much spoilers there, but the basis of it is he comes across this fellow who is following these maps. And what happens is, these maps just lead to other maps. So you have one map, you follow it, and it leads to another map, and it just kind of follows along this train. Map. So what happens is, John comes across this fella he meets, and the guy ends up passing the map because he was just so done with it. The short of it is, he's just done with it, and now this kind of, I won't say obsession, but John just kind of takes this and he just kind of goes with it. And so it almost, as I said, becomes a sort of an obsession and kind of takes over his life. He goes off to school, but really he tells his father he's going off to school. But what ends up happening is he takes this long journey and he's just following these maps. New map, another map, boom, 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 just kind of going along. And then he comes back home. I won't tell you what happens there, but his father had looked for him at some point. Comes back and doing all these. So he's kind of dealing with family issues and life issues, and it's just the premise was just cool. I was like, oh, as I said from the cover, which you have to mention because, I mean, you spot a cover in a comic shop, and obviously I didn't see this one in a shop. I would have bought it from a shop, but I had never, any of the shops I had been to around the time, none of the shops had it, so I ended up just saying, all right, screw it, I'm just gonna order it from mycomicshop.com, and glad I did because it was a good read, and the premise definitely delivered. And also try to throw up some images of the interiors here, but cover artist Todor is the interior artist as well, so you still get an idea of the interior of the book. And I said I wasn't going to go full in-depth review, but I will touch on, definitely has some storytelling. You can kind of definitely see his storytelling technique and just his skill there. So cool artist, and I definitely am interested in this book. And it had been, I'm not even sure how long ago I read this, but I wanted to look up something about the book, And I read the synopsis again, and I didn't remember this part, but apparently, if you, as he kind of goes following these maps to one map to another, it prolongs his life. So they mentioned how he has this battle, or kind of facing immortality, or kind of just living his life and being with his family, or facing immortality as he follows these maps. And you don't actually catch that. I had to go back through when I reread that part. I had to go back through the book and try to see if I could catch anything. So I'm not sure if that was just something that's just not a part of this intro issue, or if it just comes along later on. But what I also found, what also happens that kind of leads me into the rest of the series, because what it is this first debut issue, but then the rest was supposed to be released in all together in December, and as of this recording, it has not. At least I couldn't find it on mycomicshop.com, and I imagine if it's not listed on there, then it doesn't even have. It's not even up for pre-order anywhere, so it could be maybe in the shops. I'm not sure, but they don't have any. It doesn't show up anything. It just shows this one single issue. So hopefully, at some point, this will get solicited or just get some more update. I haven't checked more into it outside of just checking mycomicshop.com, which is one of my main go-to sources online anyway. So hopefully it will come back up, because I want to read the rest of this. And if the immortality aspect if that is a major aspect of this, then it definitely presents a new wrinkle other than this guy just following maps. I mean, that's good in its own, because it's showing this obsession and what it's doing to his life. You can kind of see that there throughout the first issue. So I'm curious. Immortality definitely adds another twist to that. So that is Forever Maps #1 from Scout Comics. Next up is Sonata #1 from Image Comics. This one came out months ago. I don't even know. It could have been summer, early fall, but I saw it in the shop, and I think I actually did. This might have been one of my new comic book day shopping videos where I just grabbed this issue. It was just, oh, hey, what is this? I don't know. And I think I just Googled it real quick just to kind of get an idea of the synopsis. So I wanted to check it out. Figured, why not? New book, and I've heard of a couple of creators as well. So Sonata #1 is published by Image Comics for Anomaly Productions, which I've never heard of, so I'm not sure how connected these creators are to it, but story done by David Hine and Brian Haberlin. Brian Haberlin also does the art, and then colors by Gerard, I think it's Gerard Van Dyke, and then lettered by Francis Takanaga. So the idea is you have these two clans, a peace-loving, kind of pacifist group, the Iran versus the Italians, who are the warriors, because you just gotta have some pacifists fighting the war lovers. That's just how it goes. So they're clashing over this planet they each believe to be their promised land, and you have the titular character, Sonata, kind of set off on this adventure, and they do encounter, so also on this planet are these, they call them the sleeping giants, and they don't know if they're monsters or like these gods of legend. They do encounter one, and then as the story progresses, Sonata kind of ends up on this, I don't know, she just ends up in this, or the book ends with her kind of coming across this ancient ruin kind of thing. And that's how the book ends, which was kind of the part that kind of was like, okay, maybe I should check out a second issue, but okay, nah, still not enough for me to want to do that. So that's that. Sonata, as I said, it just wasn't enough for me, but I am curious to see what other people thought of it. I will give a shout out to Brian Haberlin for his storytelling. Now, his art, I've seen his art before, and I've read stories by David Hine, but this story specifically, it didn't really grab me at all. I was like going into it, just a new story, and like figured, why not? Check it out. New book, new indie book. So I want to check it out, and it just didn't hit me. And I almost considered picking up the second issue just to kind of see maybe if that would do it, but just start the first issue, it just didn't grab me. And I'm curious to see what other people thought. I think I probably looked up reviews, or they probably had looked up on Twitter, Brian Haberlin's storytelling, did have some highlights. I like when storytellers are telling a story and you kind of see this flow from panel to panel with the story, which is cool. And so there's definitely some of that there, as well as some emotion. But overall, I just wasn't thinking it. So that's Sonata #1 from Image Comics. Last up is from Dark Horse. We have Stray. Now this one, I like. This one's cool because I like their covers, and similar to Forever Maps, I wanted to check this book out because the cover for issue #2, the week it was released, I just doing my usual kind of research, I guess, into all the covers for all the week's releases, and issue #2 had this very striking cover that reminded me of. It features one of the main characters, but he almost looks like Archangel, and just the coloring and his just design. I was thinking, dude looks like Archangel, and it just looks like a cool cover. So I want this. So I added it to that week's post. Then I was thinking, you know what? Let me check this book out. So I caught it in the shop that week. I think must have been that week, and ended up wanting to order the first issue so I could read it. It was only 2 issues in, so at the time, so figured why not go order the second, order the first one, and I just read those. So run down the creative team. So Carlos Giffoni is the writer. Juan Doe, who I've actually featured several times on, or who's actually been featured on my comic cover art of the week posts multiple times, in fact. But I can't remember the other covers besides Stray #2, but cool artist, and lettered by Matt Kreutzer and Chaz exclamation point Pangburn is the editor. Those guys, and then there's also a variant cover by Dustin Nguyen, fantastic artist. As the synopsis goes, and it's kind of laid out here in the book, in the far future, military scientist Kiara Rodriguez, I like the name Kiara, creates a device that translates brainwaves into discernible language. She uses it to communicate with her cat, Lou, and discovers the feline has the ability to astrally project or astrally travel to faraway places. The military has much to gain from this ability. So what happens is, it's part of the military, and in its far future, the military is using or wants to use the cat's ability, or is using the cat's ability to find distant planets and find them for resources. But what they're also doing is, if they come across any planets that have good resources, that are resource heavy, if you want to say, and it has any kind of life, what they're doing is wiping out a bunch of the life on these planets and taking the resources. You definitely feel the love that she has for this cat. She wants to protect it and not just use it, but what she kind of come across is threat from her military supervisors, and how they are, if she doesn't allow them to use the cat, or she doesn't want to use the cat for its powers and being able to kind of seek out distant planets for the resources, like, hey, we can basically label you, Kiara and Lou, as disposable. So she doesn't want to use that. But then what they're also doing is taking the device, and they've used that and made some tweaks to it. So now you got military, you're talking about going out finding resources, and you have this crazy technology that allows you to do other things. So so I'm 2 issues in, haven't read the 3rd issue yet, and I'm definitely digging this book. I want to check out more of this. I want to keep reading it. And the only thing I don't like is the main character, her look. There's just so many panels, and with how, I don't know, it's just something about the way she looks I just don't care for. The cat looks cool, and I like especially with the opening 2-page, not the opening, but after the intro page, the next 2 pages are just, it's such a cool look here. Just the coloring and kind of this almost psychedelic color palette with the blue, purple, and pink there, and then kind of different shades of green and teal, and it just kind of shows Lou as he hits different planets, and do a little snapshot of what the planet may be like and his opinion on the planets. So that's just kind of cool. And then the coloring throughout this entire book is just cool. It is just a lot of greens and oranges here and reds, and then like especially with that teal, it's kind of prominent, like the kind of getting out of green, like greens and teals, turquoise is some I guess you can say kind of prominent throughout the book, along with the getting into some of the warm colors there. But everything else visually is cool. Storytelling is cool. It's just Kiara, maybe it's just her design, except for outside of a couple panels. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. Lou looks cool. Just like I can't even think of many of the books where an animal is so prominent, and actually Lou does have a decent little look for cat. So yeah, definitely interested in Strayed from, again, I don't know if I mentioned it, but from Dark Horse Comics. So that is Strayed. So 2 books, Strayed and Forever Maps, which I'm interested, that I do want to read more. Sonata, obviously I stopped at issue number 1. Maybe if I catch the subsequent issues 2 and 3, at least like at a sale really cheap, and I might read them just to kind of see where they kind of went with those in those following issues. But other than that, probably cashing out after that first issue. So yeah, let me know what you think if you read those issues, Strayed, Forever Maps, and Sonata. Again, Sonata came out some time ago. Actually, all of these have, so it's been a long time, so maybe people have. But again, just want to kind of put this out there just for all of you to kind of check out, and really just intended this to be, I had this in my head that it was going to be a short video, but I mean, not even sure how long this has run. Just wanted to kind of do some quick shots, especially just to kind of highlight some of the indie books that you don't see. I mean, Image and Dark Horse, but Scout Comics is still much smaller, so definitely just want to spotlight them, especially for a cool book with an interesting premise. So yeah, that's that. Just let me know what you think of the books here, what you think of this video as well. Always curious, definitely interesting feedback. And are you interested in more videos like this, kind of spotlighting some more books? Again, I haven't done comic reviews. I haven't done any comic reviews actually, and haven't done full reviews in several years that I used to do was blogging. So yeah, just let me know what you think, and happy reading, happy hunting, happy collecting. This is GENOTHADRAGON saying thanks for watching, and peace out.